You know, when a company starts putting out new videos every day, videos that are inspirational, videos that have Beethoven like symphony music undergirding them, videos that make you feel an emotion, videos that have a narrative, a plot, a climax, a resolution, videos that show all these different elements to how things can change, videos that are very highly produced, videos where the mic quality is phenomenal, videos where the video quality seems like it's a movie, videos that are ultimately trying to get your attention and make you feel that after you've watched that 3 to 4 minute video, that 5 to 6 minute video, that you have to invest or you have to buy the product of that company. Companies that are doing this in 2021 are trying to scale. They're trying to go to the moon because video marketing, until we get VR, AR, and we have like holograms interface, is the way to get people's attention. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, like visual stuff is important. And Palantir has been a company that is not focused on marketing. They've been focused on product because they have product built in their DNA, but they're starting to recognize, especially because Wall Street's not letting them not recognize, that if you don't focus on sales and marketing, you don't focus on branding, you don't focus on getting your product out there, you don't focus on actually explaining what your product does, because we know your product's phenomenal, but if you can't explain it, then it's the greatest book that the world has never read, then you're not going to scale. And today we are looking at a brand new video that I have not looked at before. I kind of like doing these because it's my like real-time reaction to some of these videos on Palantir and Chapters partnership. And the name of the video, or the title of the video, is called Powering Medicare Recommendations. I have not seen this video at all. This is going to be my real-time reaction, my real-time analysis to it. But before we get into the video, I mean, there's more videos that I haven't reacted to that I still have to do that have been uploaded within the past couple weeks. So like when a company is starting to get their stuff out there, and we've seen many screenshots of them advertising on LinkedIn and YouTube, and they put their logo in a Denver hockey arena because their headquarters are in Denver. They're trying to scale. They're trying to go to the moon. So let's get into this video. Let's see what they're talking about, and let's try to analyze it.
At Chapter, we help older Americans find and enroll in the right Medicare plan for them. One of the big set of challenges in Medicare is dealing with the data. Foundry accelerates our data component, it accelerates our operations, and allows us to provide really great services. The challenge of retiring is hard enough, and we don't want there to be any additional stress or worry when people have to make this really identity-provoking transition point. So at Chapter, we help people not only ensure that they are in the right plan, but also help them with the process and make sure that they're saving as much money and getting the best benefits that they can for their needs. Every other Medicare advisor in the country or Medicare broker in the country will recommend only plans that pay them. And we looked at that and said, this is crazy. We took a different approach, which was let's integrate the data on all Medicare plans and let's find the right combination of plans, the right options for every single person. There are a lot of data challenges, data integration, data management, data access challenges. Before we started using Foundry, our tech stack...
So I want to, right before he talks into why Foundry sort of changed what they're doing. So this guy's the CEO and co-founder of Chapter. Chapter is a Medicare company that basically helps you transition from when you are older and retiring into new and different plans. So it's kind of like, it's a hard transition, right? When you're leaving the workforce and you're probably leaving your employer, so you don't really have Medicare with them anymore, all that stuff. So making sure you have strong recommendations by a company, by a middleman, essentially, that is able to facilitate the transition in a meaningful way. That seems to be a valuable service on first glance. Now, Foundry for Builders is Palantir's Foundry offering to startups and people that are kind of just starting at the day one. I think I did a video on this a while back on what Foundry for Builders is and basically how they want to integrate their software into a startup's or a very early company's life cycle and be the infrastructure and the backbone if that company and that startup is ultimately going to be leveraging data to be able to optimize decisions. So let's talk about what Foundry was like before, or what their tech stack was like before they started using Foundry.
Stack was pipelines written in Node and a MySQL database on the back end. Of course, we had some Java components and had a little bit more infrastructure there, but a lot of it was custom and pretty prone to error. We were writing our pipelines and doing a lot of the hard work and tedious work that it takes to build a good data foundation. Unless you are in the business of building a data management platform, you should not be in the business of building a data management platform.
Boom, right there. Okay, so a couple things that he wants to say here. Number one, the reason they need data, and we'll probably get into it a little bit more, is because they need to make advanced and specific recommendations for their clients. And in order to do that, there's a lot of different data points that they have to analyze and synthesize to be able to come up with those recommendations in a meaningful way. If you've ever been confused about what Palantir does, if you've been confused about what the value proposition is, which I can't blame you because the communication is not amazing from their end, these are videos that are trying to clear that up, which is that there are companies like Chapter. You probably never even heard of that company. I've never heard of that company. Random company that's seeming to play an important role in helping people transition into their Medicare plans or into their healthcare plans. And they're using data as a foundational infrastructure to accomplish this task. If every company in the future, again, is going to be doing these niche types of markets or trying to dominate niche types of markets and need data as the backbone to how for the process for how they dominate, that's where Foundry, Palantir can scale, right? That's where they can really enter into the commercial sector. Now, his argument, Kobe's argument, CEO, was that their data was just a bunch of SQL and nodes before Foundry entered in. And SQL is like, I took a class on it in college. It's basically like it's rows of tables that have certain data, and like it's an important piece of code and software and language to understand data. But if that's all you have as the backbone for a company that's driving recommendations through data, like that's not going to work, right? You need a lot more stuff in there. It's not AI, it's not ML, it's not really giving you advanced predictive analytics. So it seems like that's what Foundry is helping them with.
Foundry allows us to have still a robust QA process, but much more automated and much more robust. And so the ability to have multiple people be able to look at pipelines and engage with pipelines in an easy to understand way is really valuable. Really, it's data integration, a lot of monitoring on that data integration. I don't want to be in the business of having to write custom scripts for every type of data check. And then accessibility for the whole team. Large companies are resource constrained, but it's an entirely different level when you're a startup. And making sure that we can operate efficiently is the most important thing. On the less technical side, we have a lot of our sort of operations components built out in Foundry. So we know we're able to do pretty advanced and sophisticated business operations metrics and reporting in a few days, set that up in a few days, whereas I've seen this at larger organizations. It can take months or years to set up the level of sophistication of reporting we're able to do. We do a lot of analysis on what plans are good for what groups of people, so it helps us with our targeting. It helps us when we think about building out our decision trade-offs, which are in our own product that we build. We can really easily understand whether there is a lot of heterogeneity in plan in a particular geography or on a particular contour, and then that allows us to focus our energy for building our product in places where it's going to add the most value.
All right, real thing before we end off with the last 40 seconds. So a couple important things there. Number one, he said large businesses are resource constrained, but when you're a startup, it's a lot more different. Foundry for Builders is trying to bridge that gap between you being a startup and you trying to disrupt and change the world with your innovative idea, with your innovative company, by actually giving you something that allows your constrained resources to be less constrained, because you kind of have this like artificial intelligence robot fixing a lot of the problems that you have, especially of data and analyzing data is one of the biggest problems. So that's one of the first reasons he says he likes Foundry. And again, I'm trying to analyze this because I'm trying to make sense to myself even, why are companies using Palantir? Like, what's the purpose of it, right? So that seems to make logical sense to me. Number two is this argument about trade-offs. And this is so fundamentally important. You know, I didn't think about trade-offs in the context of business and data until I started investing in Palantir and understanding it more. Every business has to make trade-offs. Every business has to decide certain things that they need to do or certain things that they don't need to do. I have a startup myself, and there are certain moments where we prioritize other things over other things because it's like, those things need priority, the other things don't need priority. It's just the nature of running a startup and trying to get through things. So when you think about trade-offs, particularly in a large data complex environment, you need to understand what is the opportunity cost, which is what is the cost of doing something if you don't do something else. And does that outweigh the thing that you're doing? So my macroeconomics professor in college actually used a really good example. He was like, the opportunity cost of going to college for 4 years theoretically is $80,000, because if you were to work at McDonald's for the same 4 years that you spent in college, you would make about 20 grand a year after taxes, and that would be 80 grand. So if you, from 18 to 22, if you didn't go to college and you worked at McDonald's just straight full time, you would have $80,000 at the end of the day. Now, the opportunity cost of that is that you wouldn't have a degree, and that degree might open up opportunities for you, et cetera. But it's really important to think of the concept of opportunity costs. So in the context of data, when different things are being traded off with other things, you really need to make strong, targeted recommendations, as he said, because if the trade-offs are too large, then there's not going to be good results at the end of the day for the thing you're trying to serve, right? For the product or value you're trying to give. If the trade-off is small, then you're able to live with that and you're able to move on to other things and eventually scale the business. So it seems like that's where Foundry adds value, because it shows them what are the trade-offs, shows them hyper-personalized recommendations, and shows them, as he said, heterogeneity or homogeneity. I'm definitely saying those words wrong, but are there differences in the data, or are there similar things in the data, and are those things based upon particular geographic locations or contours, where you're able to, again, hyper-specify what's going on in a certain place, time, geography, and how do we act based upon the data that tells us what's going on.
It accelerates our operations and allows us to provide really great services. In terms of our own software, we're actually starting to use some of the Foundry backend to build some internal tools on top of it. We are now exploring using Foundry as actually a customer data platform instead of using some of the existing ones, just because it's a great source of truth for our organization. And so using that to accelerate just the way that we understand our members and our business. Foundry is critical to making sure that we have the best data. And the best data is important to making the best Medicare plan recommendations. If we don't have the best Medicare plan recommendations, we aren't fulfilling our promise to our members.
Boom. Right, what he said at the end. Last two things he said at the end. Number one is that Foundry is key to, the customer data platform. So because of their use of Foundry, this is exactly what Palantir was thinking about, right? This is the whole strategy with Foundry for Builders that I talked about in that video, which is if they can integrate their software into a company, and a company really understands how valuable that software is and how valuable it is to analyze the data throughout the entirety of the organization. A, the software becomes extremely sticky, so you're not going to lose them as a client, or you have a less likelihood of losing them. And B, they start thinking, what else can this software be used for? So what Kobe talked about was we can use them on the back end, and we can also integrate our customer data, which is the most private, secure data that you have. If you don't have customer data, you don't have anything, to be integrated through Foundry. So now Foundry is another use case for this company, which is going to get them to stay longer with the software and ultimately make the software a CRM, right? A Salesforce type of software, where in a company, when Salesforce is integrated, it's there forever, because that is the customer relation management platform for you to be able to scale your business. If customer data is coming to this company, which it has to come, right, for them to be able to have any data to make recommendations, and Foundry is what's internalizing and integrating that data throughout the structure of the company, boom, you've got a use case for Foundry that's going to be used for a long time. And I have a funny feeling other companies are going to see the similar use cases as well. Second thing he said at the end, which is, just the core bare bones of it, which is that if they can't give personalized medical recommendations that are good, they don't have a business. So the whole basis for them to give the value or the service they're providing to their customers, which is good Medicare plan recommendations, has to be leveraged off data to know what that is. I mean, it's as simple as YouTube, right? If YouTube can't recommend you good videos, you don't come back to YouTube. You go to another website that shows you good content. So you need good data to be able to make these personalized recommendations. And the age we're going in, data is going to become abundant. The question is going to become which companies are going to be able to recommend content, Medicare plans, etc., in your face for the desired service that you value, that is meaningful enough and hyper-targeted for you to actually care about the service. And it seems like Palantir is helping this company called Chapter with powering Medicare recommendations. So those are my thoughts. Really cool stuff. Again, when they introduce these videos, they're trying to scale. They're trying to show the world what they're doing. They're trying to simplify the complex nature of this product. And they're trying to get it out there for the world so the world can really recognize the power of Palantir and Foundry. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. What did you guys think of this video? What did you guys think of how Palantir can actually power Medicare recommendations in the future? My name is Mitt. Look forward to reading the comments. I'll see you in the next one.